Hey YouTube, it's Marita and welcome to another edition of the Nurse Lounge. And on this edition, I just want to come back and give you an update for how clinicals went with my nursing students since we last spoke. So if you want to see what the update is and what happened, you got to stay tuned. All right, so we're going to jump right in. So I wanted to give you an update about what has happened since the last time we were together with the last video. But before I do that, I want to simply say someone came to my inbox and basically, well, not here, but on IG, and basically said that why is race an issue? And so I decided to address it here. And for that person who did not understand, I take it that that person was not of a ethnic minority, and that's perfectly okay. I have no issues with students of any background, any terms of race or background. That's not what this is really about. And so if that's what they got out of it, they missed the entire point. The issue simply is this. When you have a majority of nursing students who happen to look like me, and they have been made to feel some type of way by their counterparts who are already nurses. So it wasn't their peers, it was their counterparts who are already nurses. Or I take that back. Like I told you before, these are already nurses, but they're nursing students advancing. So I didn't mean it quite that way, but it's left to feel some type of way, and they feel the way they feel because this is how it is in society. This is how it is in every aspect of our lives. And so here we are, just one more element added to our struggle of being a minority in America, let alone a minority in nursing. So I said what I said. I have no qualms about what I said before in the previous video regarding any race issues when it comes to nursing students, nursing personnel, nursing faculty. I'm going to always uplift every nursing student to make sure that they are successful in their programs as best as they can be. But at the end of the day, because I happen to be African American myself, and I know the plight and the struggles that we go through, I will definitely advocate for making sure that those students who are feeling less than receptive because of what they look like is the forefront of kind of what I do and what I push. I kind of really push the fact that they need to be represented and they need to be respected, and well, every nurse needs to be respected, but that if you don't care for something that I do, let it be because of my character, let it be because of the fact that I don't have the skill set, let it be because of the fact that I'm a mean person, but not let it be because of what I look like, something I cannot help. Keep in mind, we are the products of our mother and our father, so whatever came together, this is what we look like. None of us asked to be born, none of us asked to be here. We are who we are. I am the product of my mother and my father. This is what you get when you put them two together. This is what, when you see your students or see students out there, this is what we get when their mother and father is put together. So why are we dealing with the race issues? Because we still are. And I don't really see it changing anytime soon. So the only thing I can do is really encourage the students out there who are going through these types of things to say, okay, you're not alone. This does happen, but this is how we're going to handle it. So now moving on to what the update is. So what happened was we went back to clinical the very following week, and we had a great 2 days, a great experience. And so I kind of actually had to lead with prayer on that one because I know my mouth. And I knew I was in a professional setting. And at the same time, I did not want to represent the school bad, represent myself bad, or other ethnic minority nurses bad because of how I come across. Keep in mind, if you're not seeing this other video, I'm going to link the other video. If you haven't seen, if you haven't seen the other video, I'm going to link that at the end. But basically the premise of this story is just this. I had 8 students. 6 of them were African American, 2 of them were Caucasian students. And basically the staff that with the hospital we went to were all Caucasian. And they all treated my students, my African American students, very poorly. And my Caucasian students learned a lot. And it was not only felt, it was obvious, and it was just plain unprofessional. So that's the backstory. Go watch the other video to get the full story. But on this video, I just want to come and say this is what happened. So anyway, like I said, it was a great weekend. I went in with a mindset that they would not get to me, and I had to not let how I was feeling show. So I had to put on a poker face basically and just kind of be like, you know what? I'm going to remain professional no matter what they do. So when I first went in on the first day, we had a nurse who I had met before the previous weekend, and she was the charge nurse. And so I was going around asking other nurses, you know, which rooms that you want us to basically take care of, which are the freshest patients and things like that. This particular nurse told me, you know, what room to go to. So I met with that nurse. Let's call her Sally for the sake of a name. So I talked to Sally and I asked her what room should I go to. She said, "Oh, well, this is the only one I have for today." So I said, "Okay." So then I go into basically the report room where they keep a list on the board. They have a list of names, doctors, you know, why they're here, delivery, all that stuff, dates, times, boy, girl, complications, things like that. So that board, that patient status board, that's what it's called. And I wrote down or kind of checked off the ones that I wanted for my students. So with that being said, the nurse manager, let's call her Sherry. No, yeah, let's call her Sherry. She comes and says, well, the other nurse, whatever name I just used, I don't forgot that quick, Sally does not want any students. And I'm kind of like, are you sure? Because I literally just talked to her. And so I was like, okay. So since that's how it's going to be, I said, well, you tell Sally that the students will not be doing anything for her patients. So she said, well, she really just doesn't like students shadowing her. You know, she really doesn't care for students in that regard. I said, well, my students don't shadow, for one. They're already nurses. Number two, let her know that we will not be doing any water pictures. We will not be doing any vital signs. We're not filling any funduses. We will not be doing anything to her patients' rooms at all unless there's an emergency or something urgent going on. So she's like, okay, I'll let her know. Now, mind you, she didn't know that I already had just talked to Sally. So since we're passing messages, and since she couldn't tell me herself, since I'm the instructor that she met the previous week, because she had just seen me, like I said, the previous week, so she knows who I am. I had her pass that message back to the Sally, the nurse. So anyway, we get our assignments. I pass them out, and the students go on about their way. So this day, the nurses were really, you know, the other nurses were really happy that we were actually doing that. And they were kind of like, oh my gosh, you know, you all are so helpful. Everything was just wonderful. They were so nice to us. And so Sally's sitting there, you know, huffing and puffing and carrying on and sighing because she has to get up and do her own vital signs and her own water pictures and her own assessments and everything like that, where all the other nurses sitting at the nurses station enjoying themselves on their phones and planning vacations and whatever nurses do at nurses stations when they don't have nothing else to do. So that's what the nurses were doing. And so when I tell you, they're like, well, why come they're not getting my vital signs? And then the manager's like, or the nurse, not manager, the charge nurse, like, well, because you said you didn't want a student. And my thing was, since you said, Sally, that you didn't want a student, you're not going to get them in any capacity. So if you don't want them shadowing you, then they will not work for you under any regard. So that was my way of protecting my students, because you're not going to use us in that way. You're good enough to do my work for me, but you're not good enough for me to shadow you. So that's something I'm very passionate about. So once all the nurses saw I didn't play when it came to that, oh, everybody's behavior changed at that point in time. So everybody was, you know, oh, you all are such great nurses. And, you know, they spoke very highly of my students at that point in time. Mind you, the same black students that last week, you know, got thrown out the lounge just for being there, are the same students that they're speaking highly of and things like that. So after that happened, what happened after that? So then it was a great day. There were no issues, no concerns. And I was just kind of like, well, you know what? The students come to me saying, you know what? Thank you so much for being a good instructor. And I'm going to insert right here, basically the text that those students sent me, saying that how they were happy about setting up for them and things like that. But anyway, actually, I'll start those at the end. I'll start them at the end. So anyway, after that, we had a great day. Even Sally was disgruntled because I told her we was not going to do any of her work since she doesn't want any students around, which was fine with us. And the students were happy that I again defended them. So now let's fast forward to Sunday. We had a great day on Saturday. On Sunday, we came back And, they were like, good morning. Everybody was speaking to us all of a sudden. They done printed off my little report sheets for me already so that I could have them for my students. They were ready for us to come. So Sally was there again. And so we continued with that, since she didn't want students yesterday, she's not getting them today either. And so I am a bit petty. I must admit, I'm a bit petty. But, you don't play with me or my students. So if you don't want them, you don't want them. So yet again, the nurses, because it's the same ones from the previous day for the most part, they basically did the same thing. They were like, oh, thank you all for coming. You are great. And so the nurse manager, no, I keep saying nurse manager. She was not the nurse manager. The charge nurse was a different charge nurse this time. And I had not met her in the other 3 weeks that I had been there. So she was, asking students, where's your instructor at? Where is she at? And why is she down here? Now, mind you, I have students on different floors. So I have to go escort my students to their floor. And so the students were like, she just went upstairs to go take some students to labor and delivery. She will be right back. So they knew to basically stay put from the way she was acting. This is the nurse, charge nurse. So when I came back down, she said, well, who are you and where are you from? Now, mind you, we had already had hell last week, the previous week. So it was amazing how her nurses, these white nurses, chimed in. Oh, no, 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 no. These are great nurses. They come in here and they know what to do and they help us and this, that, and the other. And so she's looking at me, or her face all turned up. I introduced myself after she said all that. And I, again, reiterated, these are nurses already. And they are here to help you all, and help to learn how to basically navigate and how to become registered nurses. And I'm here to try to change their mindset in terms of how to think, how to critically think in caring for their patients. This is not about them putting in catheters. This is not about them taking IVs out, because they know how to do that already. So I am an advocate and a proponent of me tooting their horns for them, because someone has to. And I encourage my students that if you already have a skill set or something going on, in their case already nurses, toot your own horn, because if you don't, nobody else will. And so as the day went on, this nurse, charge nurse, she went to patients' rooms, just basically seeing how the day was going. And patient after patient after patient was coming back saying how much they loved my students. Mind you, the black students. Well, all of them, but I'm just saying that the majority of them were black. And how well they were doing. It was to the point that even one of the patients began to cry when it was time for my student to leave. That's how impactful my students are. So they're melanated, they're educated, and they did a great job taking care of my, well, not my patients, but the patients at the hospital. And so when the charge nurse came to me and she was like, you know what? She said, I really had a view of, your group at the beginning, but it's since been changed. And she didn't have to tell me, because it was written on her face when she introduced herself. So I was like, well, thank you for letting me know that. I said, but these are these nurses are doing a great job, and they've done a great job for the past 2 or 3 days. And they exude professionalism, and they are great nurses, and they will carry on and continue to be great nurses, because they're going to be registered nurses in December. So she turned around like a whole 180. She did, she was hating me, apparently, just nasty towards us at the beginning. But again, I'm used to it. Unfortunately, I'm used to it. But these students may not be used to it. And let me tell you why they may not be used to it. They may not be used to it to a certain degree because they're LPNs currently. And you're like, okay, well, a nurse is a nurse is a nurse. Well, no, not exactly. Because a lot of people in society believe that the best you can be if you're a minority is an LPN. So for the rest of those people, they think that the LPNs are right where they belong. So they're not going to treat them per se the same kind of way they're going to treat someone who's a registered nurse who happens to be, a minority. And I keep saying African American or whatever because that's what the students were, but I'm really referring to all ethnic minorities. So no matter if you're Hispanic, no matter what your, background is, you're definitely, a part of this. I did have one student who was, she was from Africa, and she is, she has an accent, so therefore she kind of has a double whammy. So not only is she black, she's African, I guess, she has an accent. She's from another country, and you know how we feel about foreigners in general. So she has a double whammy against her with how they were treating her specifically. But with all that being said, it was wonderful. There was tears shed from patients. There was tears shed from the nurses, from the nursing students, sorry. The nurses that we were talking about earlier, they were so receptive. And by the end of the day, even Sally, the one who didn't want anything to do with anybody, came around finally, was just cheerful, 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 cheerful. So I have seen Sally since then, and she is the most welcome, the one who didn't want me to do anything because she wanted to shadow. She said, well, I don't know why that nurse manager told you that I don't like students. She said, I don't like those other students, but I love yours. And that's great, I guess. But that was still very negative towards a traditional BSN student, because at the end of the day, we all had to come through this same path. So I'm not sure why we forget what it's like to be, you know, a nursing student. And so I'm just very happy that she came around, but again, under false pretenses, because again, you know, a student has to learn regardless of what level they are. I'm a doctoral student, so I may ask dumb questions that it's obvious to people who are already executive leaders or people who already have a doctoral degree. I may ask some dumb questions. Well, they're not dumb to me, but if I don't know, I don't know is my point. So the same thing is true with these students. If you don't know, you don't know. And that's the reason why you're here to learn. That's the whole point of having a clinical component, is to actually apply what you learned in theory to practice, to the clinical side. So anyhow, I want to show you what my students got for me. All right, so I want to show you, this is what my students got for me. So at the end of that clinical day, they surprised me with this gift, and I want to share with you what it was. And they basically thanked me for standing up for them. They thanked me for being professional. They thanked me for showing them what it's like to maintain professionalism and not let who I could be come out. So people who don't know me, or people who think we all are stereotyped in terms of being that angry black woman, that I held it together basically, even though I was very disturbed by some of their actions, the nurses' actions. But again, by the end of the rotation for them, they were, the nurses was like, they were in love with us. So I've since been back with another group, but I wanted to kind of finish and tell you what happened with that other group. And ever since then, they're like, good morning. And, you know, we've been there this past weekend. They're like, good morning and thank you for all for coming. I mean, now they wouldn't speak when we first started. They wouldn't even speak. Now they got their sheets printed off for us and everything. You coming tomorrow? You gonna come tomorrow? We can't wait to see you in the morning. You know, thanks for coming. I mean, just everything is just wonderful. So I just wanted to you know, show you some of the things that my students were greatly appreciative of me. And they got me this candle, which I don't know if they know I like candles or not, but I love candles. This is a candle. It's one of those wood wick ones. So those are one of those good candles, you know, where you hear the flicker of it burning. So I definitely love this, and it smells great. So I have this, and they also got me one more thing, and it is this right here. It says, basically, it's an artful cross, and it says, be strong and courageous, and it has a Bible verse, Joshua, I think this is 19. Oh, Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. And so basically they, you know, they were, I guess, very much impressed. It has a key. This is so pretty. It's kind of like a, as you can see right here, this is so nice. And then it has this key. Oops, this key right here. So, oh, it's a lock. Okay. So that's what the key goes to. It says, be strong and courageous, Joshua 1:9. Again, that's what it looks like. And so anyway, like I said, they were very appreciative of what I did for them. And for me, it's just part of the job. It wasn't something that I was trying to get, you know, acknowledged for. But the one thing you're not going to do is you're going to come mess with my students. Now, if my students are wrong, they wrong. And I'll be the first one to tell them, if y'all wrong, I'm not going to defend you. I'm not going to defend you. We're going, whatever the problem is, we're going to correct it and we're going to move on. But if you're right, or if I see that there's a blatant form of discrimination, racism, whatever you want to call it, we're going to call it what it is. We're going to deal with it. And so, like I said, they were very, very happy that the rotation ended the way it did. They fortunately but unfortunately learned a lot from that rotation. They learned about people. They learned about people. They learned about how people can act towards them just because of what they look like. No one had even questioned their ability or their skill. No one had did any of those things, but they did first attack them based on how they looked. And that's the part that really bothered me the most. You look down on them because of what they look like, but yet their counterparts got extra attention. And then you were down on them because you thought that they were traditional nursing students, which bothers me even more. So once you realize that, you know, again, we are setting the tone that we are not all ghetto. We're not all ratchet. We're not all uneducated. No one gave us a degree. We all earned it, or at least majority of us for sure earned it. We all earned it. However, you know, however it comes, we all earned it. And that's what we're trying to show. We're trying to show that we're supposed to be your equal, not beneath you. And that we can actually, you know, demonstrate how to be a great nurse without coming across in a negative way. And so that's what we demonstrated. They were very pleased. I'm happy. And again, we've had a great rotation since then. I again have another group, and that group is having a great time. They're having a great experience. So sometimes you have to go in there and just kind of show them that you're not the one to deal with, that you're not going to be the one that they're going to, you know, talk down to or things like that. So anyway, that pretty much concludes this video. I just wanted to basically come back and give you an update, you know, not leave you hanging. I want you to know what's going on and how it is out here in Tennessee anyway. And keep in mind, I am in the South, and in the South, things are different than the North or the Midwest or the West even. So, and around the world, it's just different here. So we've learned how to deal. I'm going to insert a couple of texts right here. And these texts are some things that the students sent to me. So the clinical day was over, their rotation was over, and they text me, you know, when I thank them for the gift, they text me back a response, and they were very heartfelt responses that, you know, reflective of what that day or that 2 weeks was like. And it's a testament to how I've grown in terms of as a clinical instructor. It's a testament of what example I'm setting for students. Because there's times where I think I wear my face, like people know how I feel by looking at my face. And I'm learning to, like, okay, even though they're driving me crazy, even though they're making me upset, I will not let them know how I'm feeling. And so that's basically, you know, what I'm working on professionally is just kind of maintaining that professionalism without going there. And you know what I mean by going there. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. You know the routine. Till the next time, you all take care. Bye-bye.